Okay. Let me just say a couple of words. I'm Jonathan Silk, professor in the study of Buddhism in Leiden University, and we're very happy to have this opportunity today to welcome a visitor who will be introduced in just a moment. And now I introduce Dr. Bert Janse, and there you go.
Okay. So my name is Bert Janse, and to me, the honor of introducing Khenpo Sodaji. So we are very honored here today to have the Tibetan Buddhist teacher and translator, interpreter, Khenpo Sodaji. And he is one of the main teachers and also administrators at Lodongar at Sepa, which is the largest and perhaps most influential contemporary center of Tibetan Buddhist learning on the Tibetan plateau. And he has been a pivotal figure in bringing Tibetan Buddhism to Han Chinese audiences in mainland China and also beyond. And this has been, he's been working tirelessly over the last 2 decades. He's also a prolific author, you could say, a bestseller of books on Tibetan Buddhism in Chinese, and he has an extensive network of Chinese students and devotees, and he is also very involved in philanthropical enterprises and spends a lot of energy on Buddhist outreach, especially among young people in Tibet and China. So that's sort of the topic that we're going to talk about tonight, the attraction of Tibetan Buddhism to young and urban educated people in China and beyond. Today is more of a question and answer session, things you always wanted to ask and never got the chance to. And I will try to interpret this and translate this as well as my possibilities. I'll try. Thank you. So who wants to open up with the first question?
I can do that if
Yes.
others don't want to. Well, I would like to ask a question about the context, which is that Khenpo is lecturing in, as we can see from your own website, for example, at a great many universities throughout the world. And I wonder if you would tell us why you think it's so important to present yourself in university settings.
Yes. Tanga the shitong parcher nitung gu yarman tani tanga so janok tani lopchang gare ni nga tani chuchu zenar kacharewa chuchu mare tendan tani lopchang gare ni tani te danshi zer kona raga tani koron so shokzagando tani nge sana kachir onson lochong de so ina pe kangayin na sano tani chi chanri re chulu re kain na pe yaboyo re tendi chi chis tela jikin kandre nanjuk sone na te nga lopcha kandre danji shinkeyo na ngan role yensi nge tani chuchu marashati de tani ngarang lapsong ta jima dari lopcha kasakane na shozenkeyo na nga kale tagme tani ngan rose tani jima te ta janok so yinne na parchir nge te na ta janok na janchin parchir sumchi so so nre ta ngan rizma makto zima nga tsangma lopcha chimbo tsangmala tani korong so shokze tani shokze dikkang tari yang chig chuchu ngoman rizda shakyo marda yinna yang jikten kirkachada ngarang samsar nara ta tendan riz de shakyo te makto zima yang chig jimsin chig muyir yo pata tenda cha mare korong so shokze di tani ro yo tani toron lopcha mayen baga tani amaram lopcha tanam jangram lopcha nara ta te mayen baga ni chig zongkang dan lopcha chong timo so shokze na yang ro yo yinna yang 지금 toron lopcha den ro shi de 지금 mangsa sen de yin yo.
So I started doing this, coming to schools and universities in China, starting in 2009. And when I go to these places, universities and schools, it's not so much teaching the Dharma as such, but it's more, talks and discussion. And I was initially invited to Chinese universities and schools, and I found that especially in discussing issues with the youth, be it about science or about religion, I thought them to be very bright, and it seemed very interesting. And I basically, from then on, I started being invited more and more to places around China, and I just thought, well, if I'm invited, I will go there. And this sort of grew from, being mainly in China initially to also outside of China. So basically I go to places where I get invited. These are not necessarily universities. They can be universities or middle schools or primary schools. And I also go, if I'm invited, I even go to prisons to teach. And it's often not necessarily speaking about Buddhism, but more about my thoughts on certain subjects or discussions or ideas that I may have. So it's basically, it's not that I have a specific aim in coming to universities alone, but I will just go when I am invited to these places.
Question. Shall I ask in English or in English?
Whatever you like. Maybe in English, because then everyone can understand.
All right. How do people in China react to your teachings there, and also in relation to political issues?
nga ande nga chu ngama de kambon jigme phunso khongin na tene zo chulug zo 막 또 주면 되니 공거 찹주다 된다 진저게 요 말에 근데 nga chu 라롱 gar그 tene 야nak 걸로 mam보즈 따따 있나 tene 다 추추셔서 mam보 요래다 있나요 때라 지 다양 지 찹주던 저랑 nga chu 양 로랑디 그 카쇼단 로랑디 그 tene omugir 된다 차요 말에 된디 베나가 있나 shirtung个산지 출루 다 산지 출루도 있나 다리 지금 때라 지금 머르다나 차프다나 되니 야급 지금 ram라세요 말에 슬라이나야 그런 총그 모조신의 반선 그 조랑시나야 된적이요 대인디 되니 지 땅아랑 주 추추시안에 있나 자가 대마임바가 tene lopcha jamba chondrone inna the chapchutan jira kurang chungone inna chapchutan jira yosani na ngate yang tari ge chapchu zegi da ta yang shogran so yang moyer mombozo nere tendi ya jig stab de momendo tendi so de chush yangwa ge gogone tene the jolan shege da na chuchu shaje ta te moyer ge yen tene 지 가사강나 손에 있나요? 지 다음 무일 된다 요사이니나 요. 지 쇼강한테 답대 봄 맹거 된디 야나가 추추샤지나 대담 저런 조금에.
So just like Kempo Jimmy Pinso, when he was teaching, he taught Buddhism and steered away from issues of politics. And we do now find that at Larungar, there's many Chinese who are receiving teachings, who are interested in Buddhism, and I happily teach them, but I don't have any aim of influencing them in any political way. And that's also generally the message of Buddhism, that when you teach Buddhism, it's not about ethnicity or nationalism or political issues. It's more having a discussion about religious topics, things that are interesting for us. So also when I'm invited to universities, whether I teach Dharma or when I go to universities or schools to teach, then I try to stay away from the political discussion, just because it is not fitting. It's something that is not my aim. Yes.
Often people hear people talking about influence of Hinduism in Tibetan Buddhism. Even certain God and goddesses have been incorporated in Tibetan Buddhism. How do you explain influence of Hinduism in Tibetan Buddhism?
Tandi yagarna ngama ga khanda chulu yore. Shana khanda chulu ga lorjin gare latte yone na ngatsu sanje chulu da nika no tani ta khanda chulu ga yin rao tani parchir lo samtung yarmar ga lorji o sa mambo yore. Shana yagar ga chulu de la chulu mambo se yak de la ya tramze chulu da na tani ta khanda chulu nankar ga yang tela na ngotsu yang chire ba ga chulu na na tani chulu mambo se yore. Ta tinone perna ngotsu sang na na yoni tani ta jurwa tang jurwa te jin da hadang hamu rangjin jikten ba ga ji nang chir dan thamba na ra tinda gare yo re tani gare ga zena tangsang ta ngotsu yanak ko chungni ne na gare ga ze yo re tani boygin nang tan de parchir ta khanda chulu ka sara shan ji yong sa yana te ga ji nang don rabo ten razu shi da na cha yo sa re ze da na tani gare ta yanak ko tani jimjig ba so nang gare tinda se yo re ina yo ta te jagar ga chulu da na te koron so namba yang mare 대전 듯이 낭도양 다리 먼저 몸보지 요래 내 갈래샤요.
So if you look at the history of Hinduism compared to Buddhism, you could say that it has a longer history, perhaps at least 3,000 years. But of course, within what we call Indian religions or Hinduism, then there's also different different sections. Usually you have Brahmanism, you have then in Indian religion you have Jainism, and so on. So it's difficult to point to one thing. But it is indeed true that if you, especially when you look at tantras, Buddhist tantras, you see, and then in the ritual or in the description of the appeasement and liberation rituals, then there's lots of descriptions of gods and goddesses who have the appearance of Indian or Hindu deities. And there's been some scholarship, the scholarship I know of Chinese scholars who say that there is at least the outer appearance of these deities have been basically imported, adopted from Indian religions. But it is one thing to talk about the appearances of these deities, and another to talk about what they actually represent, the actual meaning of these.
Tate mandrasada kare yorzena jagar ke chulung rozina tene ta perna wanshik ba chulugina tene koron gote ndochak te na ndochak te takar ke ta wanshik ba yora wanshik ba yora ta wanshik ba chulung rozina tene parchewa tare ta ndochak na ndochak takar ke ramchan ba telang ngon zang ge yosare tene ngachu tene khwerna ta sangak kono ge ladang lamo go to ge yavim zonjur ta timo yono de na shir tar de na to ge ta phomo gor na ba yore tene ta te nang tar de na tene ta ndochak ze gore tene khsangwa tar de ne na ta te ndochak de ta melong ta be yishi melong ta bo yishi ze ta de yore tene yangsang tar de na semgi ngo jiwa me ba ta tim song ge yore 다 샘궁고 시험에 봐 샘궁고 곡사라 댄송고요 동화다 나더니 곡사라니까 종던직 봐 댄송고요래 다때인데 대지 다 낭철 거wan도 셴이나 다래 거나 지금 야연 종절을 하는 티모요 나라는 동음악가 다 샘궁고 시험에 봐 동화다 나더니 gabame pa goxarwa tenika zongdenjik sonu tim chondon zamakto zema teni perna nyomwa ramchon ba ta nyomwa rangawa tendaga ngon zenga yomare teni kirondi ngasu te ta sanin ger jek nung ger jonlik te yawaz de jimjik shene na teni ta jagar ge chulig da nakpe teni sa chesane mandasa hajan chimbo yogo yore.
Now, for example, where you see the differences is when you see, for example, something that you have in Shaivism is the sexual union, and you have that similar imagery in Tibetan Buddhism as well. In Tantric Buddhism, you have the imagery of a couple or deity in sexual union. And then there are different levels of explaining this. So on the external level, it would seem like it is an expression of desire. But then when you look at it from a Tantric Buddhist perspective, then it is, it's not necessarily desire. So there's different levels again. On the first tantric level, then you say, well, this is a representation of wisdom that is like a mirror. When you go on an even more subtle tantric level, you say that it is a representation of the nature of the mind, which is unborn, and also the union of the nature of the mind and emptiness. So we talk about different levels here. It looks the same, but then when you go to the deepest meaning, when you say the actual meaning, then what it represents is the union of unborn nature, true nature of the mind, and wisdom and emptiness in unison.
We're here at the university, and he's also teaching at a university, and to follow classes here we need to have certain prerequisites. So I was wondering if you could say what the prerequisites there are to enter, for example, Meditation 100. At the University of Tekalaringar, if they teach how they go about that, how they prepare the students for meditating, or if they directly learn that as like the first thing. And then the other follow-up would be to ask him to tell us what he would tell his Meditation 101 class on the first day.
Got it. Nga tsum lopcha chimbo na inatani ngone yang ta cherkin mongbozu gorwa te sharshok jerko inanda napchok jerko inanda parcher chigba chigya rekndo. Tene nga tsu larung garne yang ta shirna gum ja de la rimba mongbozu yore. Inaya 치 곰기 레 당보와 제고난 라고 곰고 다 망지 더니 다 대초인네 나지 차진 침부도 매잖아요 저그래 더니 가서 라룬거 그더니 다 조바 침부고 곰 베나 다 착쳤다는 더니 토르그르세게 된다 곰이요래 다 된다 곰 고는 있나 오네 지 가서 베고는 범가 속에 있더니 베나 chambam tertana tani jamru semkit mandr tani yigya ta tinda to ngune bamter ngapchi thamba ngune nro gore tani ta te maim ba ke yang chi penanga cholarong garne ni na rangkhar ko chi gehnin go domba tari go tani tsawa ju changnga tinda 다 용시즈 막도 뭐뭐요 말에 되네 때 막도 창마다는 되네 랍트 중화 되네 안에다는 잡아 기서 기르노 연축근에 되네 때 돈바가 원드시네나 돈바가 찬 돈본을 저거래 되네 지 추 냠랭게나 로 mom본을 차대zo 되네 조칭거 되네 다지 곰 토름 거때 곰텔라 때래 조 다래 쳬쳬쳬레 되네 랑클게 다 지 추바 그 되네 곰 조칭거 다 곱서다 착추다 되네 곰 톰보이나 되네 다 테마타도 곰 추지 쇼리오 마레.
So to enter university, there's a lot of things that you need to have, and there are lots of conditions that need to be present, and this is probably the same in the East as it is in the West. But then again, in the same way, in the university you have many levels. In Lalungar you also have different types of levels of meditation, and perhaps as a beginner, beginning meditation and without high objectives, then you probably don't need so much of things. But it really depends on what you want to do. So if you aim to do certain meditation sort of practice in Dzogchen, serious practice, then you need to do the preliminary practices of 5 times 100,000 of taking refuge, bodhicitta, the 100-syllable mantra, prostrations, and mandala offerings. So these then are requisites to do those type of practices, meditations. And then, of course, to stay in Lalungar as a layperson, it is helpful to take the upasaka vows, so the lay people vows, and then you have different levels. You become ordained, become a nun or a monk, and then you have vows that you keep to as well. And then, so people practice in that way. And of course, if you want to do higher types of meditations or more advanced meditations, then you need certain instructions. And as said, these preparational practices. And then that sort of prepares you for meditation.
Penanga ngama de larung garna thonde tani thang tambo tani ta kambo jingmen pansok tani dzogchen go chut de gom de songre de gom de song de thang tang nga bonga tari bonga ya hasu so me de tani ti trawa thon ma song tani pe ro sam da ina yang tari thon ma song tani yang thang ni ba de kare zena tani khor go chepchen go wang yo re de wang de thon ma song tani wang de nga yar kha tani yar ne zi ki ti no song tani yar thon de wang song char song yang wang thon ma song tani thang simba de zo de gomya de wang zer ko nan ra de chu de thop song re de ni na yang rang khar ko tani chi chan thom bo go de gom de thop la mo da le la bon zi yo ma re tang bom bom nga me ra ni ba de wang yo bo to ma so ra wang ma to de yang nang ch ma so re tani thang samba na nge tar bom nga to tani tar wang chama yang top sa de tani thang samba de chepchen yang tuk tani de zog chen ge chi re ba de gom da de tani top so.
So for example, back in Lalungar, Jima Pinso Rinpoche used to teach Dzogchen to people. He used to give the instructions. But the first time he did this, I had not done the preliminary practices. So I had not done these 500,000, 5 times 100,000. So I didn't get them. Then the second time he gave them, the second round he gave them, I had not done the initiation. I had not gotten the initiation. So again, I could not get it. Then the third time around, I was able to finally get these instructions and then practice on them. But that goes to show that it's not an easy process.
Tene tari che chwa ni ba de le tangbo wa go tene sangtung go kan je shi na par che de tene nam na chuden na nam na zo go chuden yo ra de ne na tangbo tari kan wa tari ji chong cha je kan wa tene shi ni kam nyam ji zeng je da na tene ga ci ya de si zhang wo zo je tene tari ke da reng ge tari zhen ba tari den shu zi zhong sarang gu ji tene natse la ta je tene chi tse kang la ya ra chi tse de kang la ta je tene chba zhong zi ma lo da je ge ta na tene da shira gyap chola dis korean da tenja zoni na tene tang a su khasan de reng ge tene swangten chama ge gon tang de yeng ge yon re pe na lu tra chenbo mambo zikane na zo tari lim nyam jari dan dan jab gom go re ta tin ja yin na ta ga li chang na za chang na sem chang ta ga sem chang na tani ta narwap ta na tani de ga mo zum jong yong ze tok song go te yin na tani thomar ta ga sang tong gom ba sadang se na ya ta parchir tari nam na chu deng ga ta gom go ji ta na ta ga sem tsich chig da ta ga nyam ren jog yo ta te zo lo chu she yo re.
But then for the second part of your question, your second question is, as a beginner in meditation, then perhaps you begin with sitting the right way. And the way of sitting is the 7-point meditation posture of Vairocana. And that is basically sitting in the lotus posture, or sitting cross-legged with your right over your left hand, palms, that you have your arms or your shoulders straight and a little bit apart, that you have your head a little bit bent forward, that you rest your eyes towards the tip of your nose, or slightly beyond, that you have your tongue on the top of your palate, curled on the top of your palate, and as last, that you are not leaning against something, but you're slightly forward bending. And the idea of, so this is the type of posture that we teach to everyone who is learning how to meditate, concentration meditation. And the idea is that if your body is straight, then the wind energies are also straight. And if they are straight, then your mind it's easier for your mind to focus. And the initial idea of this type of meditation is that you are able to focus your mind on something one pointedly. So this is the meditation starts with this posture. So we teach this to people who begin.
The question to you is, we have many different socio-economic systems in the world. The question I have is very short. Do you think a socio-economic system can make you sick, or can you only make yourself sick?
Socio-economic systems.
Tate niga yoresan. Ngatina chikto ngatso masoso ga rang ga lipo ga na tani nan raman ra ta na dungun raman ra yong ji to so de da ngatso na chulu bai na sanji ba ga zani na so ji ngama ga yang tani jirkin mambo dam jer yore tani tsendi korig da na shutsu tani charkin ngbo barjur de zo yang jera mambo su cha yore tani ta chikdo 다 환절기가 저거 대 당인 난자가 되니 나차인 난자가 또 참마때 되니 조용레제나 저 파치 연사 말에 Inayang Kasanderang Zamolang Tani Zo the Dam Pejin de Yara Zachin Zoyong di Tani Ji Rangshong Kam go Da Kori Dorlang Ramandra Zo Tani Ti Tonze Zo Tsama de Sara Rungdon Shui Dana Tani Tsama Tandra Zoe Tani Tandra Chi Kirong di Tani Chacha Dana Devjun Dana Da Ramandra ga Tani Tangsang Rangshong Kam go Tani Chuni Da Montomba ga Nilik Mombozu Chega Yore Dendi 오늘 다 발치를 주 흔한데 사천도 소이나 nga 단어에나 배 10분 정도 가르잖아 단직준 뭐뭐 요금도 와 네 종질 뭐뭐 없다는데 이나야 강화 뭐뭐 서클 레지다는 텐다 좁에 뇽뇽을 렌도 내가 가수 영때 다 하라 여러 야랑 쇼권에는 되니 사차 Jerk Mombos in Nata, Nimachi the Kama Mombo Lake Tanatani, Namkai on the Sobrazo, Cheon, Sobrazo, the Niji Sama de Soyona, Memobos, Decoyora, that then they around the winning as soon as the Dungertan and Mombos shake Yoyore, Inaya, Ta Chin Zamolungo, Chin rolling the road in the child de Pay Galeo Sari, Chirizina. 단 자몰롱도 가서 대라인 나페 반선 로종 취다는 된다요래 된다 로종 취 된다요디 다 그런서 또 총몽보도 언저리요라 다 총몽보도 언저리요디 되니 다 발치를 유럽 다는데네 아메리칸도 소인이나 다 사마다는데 소지 역시 인사래 맞수 야노클로마 몸보선다네 온디더니 다 그런서 인치민진더니 내가 전에 등내 인더니 파란 로모포더니 즉 다치도 카우기 땅만만도 그더니 자마 즉 어디탕 형식 자마만도 제 몸보서 같은 라건도 강타리야 맞수 자물은 거 뭐참마가 런건 코리가 런것도 시시에 되는 런거 대탕라 런거 뉴트라조고 견도 배 고고나 배 칼렌도 내나요 때 지금 정마도 때라서 거나 때 인사말에 야고 배나 오스트레일리아는 데나 다 된다 네처다리 뇽뇽인사래 유럽네 연애야 된다 네처 뇽뇽신사래 예 당연나야 지 나초 정마가 조 로미 되던가 타달라 지금 맞춘 시즌등 되나 빼가 첨부는도
So you could say it's a little bit of both. As from a Buddhist perspective, of course, you would say that the notion of karma, that mainly what you experience is the result of something you've done previously in a previous life, for example. But then, of course, you can look at the current environment and you can see how the environment definitely contributes to your general well-being, but still as a result of karma. So you could say, well, is a socio-economic situation mainly making us ill or making us, causing us suffering? That's maybe not the main reason, but still, it is something that we need to take into account. So, of course, we see the progress, economic, socio-economic progress, but that also comes with a lot of factories and machinery, and that comes with exhaust, and that is something that is not generally not good for the environment, not good for people. So far in the Netherlands, it's been very nice. I've found that the air quite clean and not so much exhaust, not as in certain places in China, where it is really the sky is often you can't see the sky due to the pollution, and it's also something that the sort of the pesticides and the pollution in food is also something that's a big worry for a lot of people. But this is, of course, so then the environment becomes, from sort of the more worldly perspective, it becomes a concern for us all. It's something that people need to study, and we need to realize the effects that are concern for business and progress, what they have, what kind of effect they have. And we see that, for example, regulations with regards to that in Europe and in America, they are a lot better than in other places. And we have less concerns about the food we eat and the air we breathe. But we see that these type of effects is becoming a problem of the world. But it's not everywhere as bad. So Europe, America, Australia, we don't see big problems, and elsewhere we see the results of pollution, and it's something that we need to take into account and we need to take care of. But I wouldn't say it's the main problem of our suffering or our illnesses.
Good afternoon, Good afternoon, Professor and Translator, Doctor. I just have a question that will the desire for love, company, relationship or marriage become path to spirituality? Thank you.
Because it becomes an obstacle. Or does it? Or
Does it?
Yeah.
다 shirtung nga tsu ma sidang sayi na tani njikting kamsi njikting kam dana tani tsuwa shirgu di tani daga da sharlo narshinga ma sayi na di nga tsu nruliga tsuwa shirtang zi yora dan shirtang zi yojinda tani tanga yabuzi ku ma sonda ina chuba zirga kandi zirga chu zhunga ina.
So you're talking about from like a Buddhist practitioner's point of view, or just more general point of view? The page in English.
chubaga zo parchi zojida nachi cheba de karizina ta zo chula lukta chirwa lukta chine tani tariga ta jin sam samlan de ji tari drumna tondong maika samji tani mujub jida te parchi nachi chishu re sam karizina tani oma jigyaw na sonyo re chirizini na ta tsuchum char sona lagasri retana taga lukta shini na tani ta chude yang ta paza drupki yo mare se ta tenda sonyo re ta tenda indi nga tsu chu she no go tani ji shirtung ge na pe na tari ge ta ji pe na ta gehning ge domba na ja ge tani ta mongbo yo ra lapcha mongbo yo ra te zo changma tari drum na na charkin chu charkin yo bore sem kare zena sem de sra chung thya la pe dondak chenbo yo ra reta inayang di tsawang uma de kare thore jena zo de tene chu de modre mara yigin jo jo te pe za chenbo re ga te maim ba ga tene benanga su ji rang jindang ge shopa de so yin ta ji chumthan da na chum da ba tinda che thon na pe ma ge yobo re ta inayang tinda ka te matham na ta tena ji pe na shohashia da tinda yo ra 저 베나 사도도야 다는 데라 말아 셔바 데라 체어라 데는 교식을 줘라 데는 득방가리 있나 데는 단도 치나 쳐레스 데데 인디 소도 다 셈가 말 만도른 게다는 데는 긴 교원로긴 같이 보여고 만도삼 다 추바 있나 데는 지금 잠바소 있나 양 잠바군 롤 카카 뭐 보여라 데는 서로 고만도.
So I think generally speaking the biggest obstacle to practicing the Dharma is wrong views. Because what wrong views do is they cause you not to practice, to leave things aside, neglect things. And this is also something that is said in Ayadeva's 400 verses. it says something like, it is very good to practice self-discipline or ethical discipline, but it is worse to, or it's better to not have wrong views. Generally speaking, there's different levels of like vows you can take. You can take the upasaka vows, or lay people's vows, or monk vows, nun vows, whatever. And these, with that, you create contributing factors. They basically help you to protect yourself from doing the wrong things. But the most important thing here, the basis of one's practice should be not having the wrong views, because they cause you to do the wrong things and not do the right things. So you find, you hear of monks, ordained people who are very concerned with keeping their vows and self-discipline, moral discipline, but maybe are less concerned with maintaining the right type of views. So, in my view, then, wrong views is the thing that we should be most concerned about, because this makes us do negative things. So this is from a Buddhist perspective. How this would translate into sort of worldly business, I'm not sure.
What is the Buddhist perspective on people who kill in war to protect themselves? For example, in the Second World War, people soldiers who were on the front, which is usually as close to the enemy that you can see the white in the eye of the enemy, and there's only one red rule: it is you are killed or the other. So, is there a kind of karmic mercy for all those soldiers who had to kill to survive?
You mean, as in, is it still killing or not, or is it still negative or not?
All the wars.
Basically, the soldiers who are made to kill, who are forced to kill.
Yeah. If you stand in front of the enemy, you are dead or the other is dead.
Tā tē kāntrē na de pēnā sō chōpa de nipa chēmbō yin rē. Tēn de tēlā jimtsūn zhāmbā zēr gu na yāng tsū jikten bā wāndu shēni na yāng tē shachur mōmbō zū yō na chok yō rē. Rē tā yāng chuluk wāndu shēni na tēne pārur wō tā sāt sāmiyāga sāmbā tēnā tēne yōrwā tōna tēne tātuk sōki wāmbō tē ngāk njō jī tōna tē zhīn tōna tā sōsim tōna tēne yōrwā tōna tātuk tōna tēne shōku wāmbō ngāk njō jōsōsum yōrwā tātuk sēri tēndā tsō tsāng sōni sōng tē kāng tāriyāng nō tēlā tā tē narman tene mambosu te chocho pi nibaga narman da to ngone yoke yore tene te dugba de yore ten de shirtong da rang chung chet tene parolo la chi gorwa tang kangok tenda na she chore reta yinayang da rang chung chet parolo sat tong gubingi ba yo mare sang ngetena tena zānglang chikchi nipi kawi nāyāng chā jambā pōgu chōla tene chī rāma chāga tā tene sāzi zō rā te zō yōng nāyāng yināyāng kurāng tēlā chōngkyū shē tō ka tā mōmbō yō rē te sāt tā chik tō sāt tōng gubi ngibā mandu gō sāng sāt gōi ngibā mandu, sō gōi ngibā mandu sāng rē tēn di kāng tāriyāng nō tene te ngibā te chā yō rē sāng rē Nila sar kada yakka. 컴퓨터 잡나 공공데 디스카 지금 차가 차가 잡나 그지 거 알아 럭그 거 잡나 거래 나는 럭그 잡아
So killing actually is always a very negative act, and whatever the reason for that, it's still negative. And we see that in the world, like from a worldly perspective, then certain type of taking life in some cases is not something illegal. So in wars, etc., then there's allowances that, you know, if it is to protect yourself or it's for a different purpose, then it's not something seen as you know, punishable or bad. But from a Buddhist perspective, if you have the motivation to kill, if you then actually do the action of killing, you know, you go about killing, and also the final act, the person actually dies, then that makes a complete sort of cycle of the action or the action of killing. So you can say, yeah, there are allowances when you say when it's out of self-defense, then it's different. But when the motivation is there to kill another, and you actually complete it, then in any case it is a negative act.
Hi there, my name is Robbie, and I'm wondering if there is another way to cleanse your karma instead of suffering.
따때 네테나 파르nga chokat서들은 장는 거뭐 망보 지가 드니 레 게와 주니나 드니 대와 종교도도 드니 레 마게와 주니나 등은 종교도 파르치아서 근데 김선도 고고 말해 담 먹고째도 먹고제 소 땅아 소 락소 코리 드니 김선 뭐뭐서 특요라 드니 다 총총인디네 드니 센드시 레 김제가도 락소 취야가 드니 그 지롭종 치사다 드니 요 말해 드니 아직 나총 코리 그 르네 대형 파르치아 대형 즉 센드시 레 김제 요사가 드니 코리 메반르다 몸차 대인나 즉 시르나 센드시 그 드니 레 게트거 디 탈라 똑바요지도 다 파르치아 로총 망보즈 그 된자가 똑바 요거래 똑바 된자 요거래 가르즈나 나총 추샤니나 당보 똑바 요래 되네 똑바데 저하고 되네 랑게 로랑시 상로당 되네 쪼바죠 되네 름지 다리 달리나 레트근 제베 먹게 왔던 종 만나 먼종 데 강롱들라 타초지가 되네 당케르니 시어버게 요래 된자인데 땅 운이 장네 회나 nga라 상로당나 되네 달리 짐진도 운이 요래 상고요 대여지대양 런커그 추라 답바 대바 잠스 많이 막아 당 운이가 되네 이 롱다 르바 다 된저고 되네 기론디 되네 단데 요사레 가르즈나 베나 나초 뭐멍보요나 바마 지바이나 보니요라 데 보니가 그체 nga마가 다리 레데 되네 우마이나 다리 바마니까 그 지기 멍보서 자가 요래다 옛나야 보니까 그다 대화던 등을 얘는 자요 말해 대 먼저지기 짐슨데 그런 수 건식이 감나 레 요노 되거래 막 도제면 대 마임바 다 되니 셰고니나 다 가스대랑 차륵 바기나 대 셰탑고요 말해 근데 가서 출력 바기나 대 사로즈도 되니 셰탑고요래 대 샤노 대야 땅아 순초와가 줬대 되니 냠뇽 질런시니나 자가 만에 상로 땅에 나페 라초 여보 용거요래 때나 네때나 다리 그때 고알랭게다나 텔라 짐직 시게다 배가 쳔버래 근데 제 저와 시스템도 제 야르장에 저와 시게 때 여보ren도
Yeah. So first of all, about karma, then generally speaking, I mean, there is this notion that good actions bring about happiness and bad actions bring about suffering. This is something that a lot of people already sort of have an understanding of. They find this a reasonable thing, and this is something that we see, also from you see that studying brings about something, or certain actions in the environment bring about certain results. So we see that how that sort of works, but then with the action, or sort of the working of cause and effect, it is actually very good to. We hear a lot about karma, and we hear a lot of stories, but it's actually very good to start with this sort of doubt, thinking, how does this work exactly? Because doubt leads to questions, and questions leads to investigating and discussing and thinking and understanding, and then to a certain point, at a certain point you come to some kind of understanding or conclusion. And Kenji says, I personally, I really believe that the working of cause and effect, karma, exists. That it is really does work, and this is not out of faith. This is not for me not an assumption, because it is part of Buddhism, but it is on the basis of studying and making certain arguments, thinking about that. And you can see that the workings of karma also just more in the world. For example, if you have two children from the same parents, you see that their levels, and who basically have the same environmental conditions, they have very different experiences. In some might be one might be happier than the other might have more misfortune than the other. So it is if you look at how these things work, at one point you come to sort of an understanding that these things really function the way they are explained, and it becomes very clear for you. But this is something that is a process, and that is something that you sort of practice in doing, thinking about how karma, how the workings of law and effect, or the working of cause and effect, how it works exactly.
다리 시가 시기들 앞에나 다 같이 베이징 어떤 그 시가 시기도 조 님보도지 다때니 땡기 또지 때니 베나 돌지 생관든지 남 가고입니다. 라마금던 그 시가 시기들 때니 다리 다슨 준비 또 아마 그런 거 득바 지요나 데라페 조바 잡지게 데레 네 소르치피도 연나다 친청에 된지도 봐서 친 먹ong선네 되네 담자서죠 되레 되네 님보 근도 쇼피스도 버지도 다 간지선거나 되네 베나 돌지 생화 런거 되네 던지 남칼라 꿈네 되네 디 신럽라 되네 런거 득접 박차 소마도 말 딱송선니 된다 또 드스 배우종 드스 배우종 된다 군탕 요래 다 된다 전에나요 시하이나 그 런기 뜻바티 손다 나고래 대 마음 바거더니 야라 영지 참 돈번을 쓰이나 이 런그 샘지 내일라 샘거 파르다네 되니 동반이 ging 되니 스체치도 냠버르잖네 되니 런그 샘지 오 좀버시 다데나 양탁냐라 양탁다 양탁 통라 넘버 2 저 양탁 빙오라 양탁 버스타네나 양탁 받은 통디 넘버 2 저리지 다데 디스치 곰냐는 여보요산이나 되니 시화된다 용래 근데 된다 마오나 님보도 지글 거는 쇼바시나 배 여보요래
But then it is this karma. It is also possible to purify this, and within our system in Tibetan Buddhism, there is a sort of a way of purifying karma on the basis of the 4 forces or the 4 powers, which then starts with doing something positive. So that's, you could say, well, this is meditating on Vajrasattva, or reciting the mantra of Vajrasattva, purifying mantra, or visualizing your teacher. The second then is the power of remorse, so feeling regretful about what you've done. And the third is the making the promise, basically saying, well, I've done something negative and I'm not going to do it again. And the last is the force of the antidote, which can be a number of things, but one would be to visualize Vajrasattva and then visualize the stream of nectar going down, being blessed by the stream of nectar, by which then you visualize that your negative karma is purified. So it's a way of practicing. So these are the 4 forces or 4 powers that you can employ to purify your karma. Alternatively, you can also focus in order to purify on the state of your mind, to meditate on the real nature of your mind, the true nature of your mind, by which you can become liberated, and by which this type of practice can you can also purify with. But again, then you also have the 4 powers. These are both ways to purify karma.
I have a question about mind dharma, or I think it's gongta. How does it work? Where is it stored, and how does it go from the past to the future?
Gongta de mamo music go yo menena nge tendra lanta tendra mara lamna yo te am music ko konroji mare.
Maybe for the people who have not heard of mind dharma, then maybe if I say something, then maybe you still not understand about mind dharma treasures.
Taina gongter de 가르센데 신나 나총 가서 되는 건데 거르는 보체가 다 때마 배 몸보여라 배나 런천 때름서 다 보여 배 몸보여래 되네 배여나 되네 때튼 야자 때튼 야다 get 잠즈거든요 배 몸보여래 되네 코란소 때 때추데 오늘 다 다가 지금 심직심 용해 지 심직시안들이나 되네 코란 고집배 여래 te maim baga ta termagal lurjinde thakar dranganguni chi ko kabun yore yena zu gongter zide tene ta ngurun bo che gtene perna tare chu kan roazita ta maon nerkamna tene mara ta titsud mo garson di mara nyam rora ta te manyim bi chetna to tene semgi sangwa tela tare ta mara je ta semgi sangwa tela ter de range ju zo re perna nga chu kanezera perna ta te chu mombo ngare de tene namki khamna be nyu je yore ngare de tene chono la be range ju yore tene ngare de tar chaqno la tare re yore tene gongter zikita tene ta thigi sangwa imzo tela ka ningi kagi sang imzo tela tene khanru density pa ge ta venan tene re para ba yo ra tene re ba yo re tene yendi tene ta ti tertun te ticho ngichin za thondi tene kurang ta datab na ramra ra tene ta tene 다 되기 섬주네 되네 엄마 거는 뭐 지금 몰음지 또네 저스타와 전도 레요 비 테스트에서 양 되네 칸로다 추경 때도 때라서빠가 되네 다 되네 다 그러네 되네 다 된다 그러네 되네 럼지 다 되네 다 도리용 좀 뭐요래 아마 베나 팅건 첸서는 뭐 첸르라에 나랑 한번 지금 편소에 나라 콩 넘버 소에 나더니 다 공트르페 뭐 요래 되네 베나 그런 뭐 제가 네 차버지 사자리에 통송됐더니 다때 오늘 지정기 설더나 저 되네 대추대랑 그렇게 통용이라는 데는 뭐 요래 베나 가이나 그뭐 이제 방가 자원 로건도 됐더니 다른 삼건에 했더니 공트르페 뭐 이게 도밥이 요래
So these treasures, these are generally speaking left by Padmasambhava, by Guru Rinpoche, and so these are treasures left by him a long time ago, and then later on there are people who reveal these treasures. So these can be texts or other physical things, or of course meaning. And there have been at least 100 treasure revealers, people who reveal these treasures in the past. And this is a big topic of research. You can look at how this has happened in the past. Then you also have this mind treasure. So these treasures, you could say, stored on the continuum of a person by Padmasambhava. And in order for these particular teachings not to be lost, so the idea is that teachings, they degenerate and they go lost, and then when the time is right, they can be revealed by the right type of person. So you have these sort of physical treasures, and these are found by treasure revealers in from the sky or from a lake or from a rock. But then you also have the mind treasures that are then stored on the mental continuum of a disciple of Padmasambhava. And then when the time is right, and the time is sort of announced by there being all kinds of signs, then this sort of becomes revealed. So when there's sort of this can be triggered by other people or dakinis and other things that happen, or being at a specific holy place or like a pilgrimage place that is associated with Padmasambhava. And then these type of treasures can be revealed. So there's some in modern times also famous treasure revealers such as Dilbu Khyentse Rinpoche and of course Jigme Phuntsho Rinpoche, who have then traveling to specific places started to, let's say, remember things or come up with things that have been or let's say stored in the past, and that's sort of how a lot of these cycles of treasure cycles have come about.
This is a question that I got two of us. If karma works, can we get what we want by planting the seed of karma? Such as if you want to get rich, then you make people rich first. Such as if you want to have a company, then you provide company to lonely people. And also we heard that if you do good things, specific good things, in accordance with what you want, and you think about your good deeds, instead of forgetting about it, thinking about it, emphasize this, and then the seed of karma will grow crazily, and then you will get what you want this life, but not next life. We just don't know if this is true.
다 맞송 신나 레즈기데네 tene namba mombo ziyore tene chu te pe garezen te naka mombo ziyore le ngare de tene chen de jwe tongchu myongjer chen de la jumne tene chen di twa tene 다 ರಂಗ jumba jna zopa gomna tene shaga kan jumna yo muksur ko niba chimbozu tsendi tanga yongmeyo ge denra yore tene yang lengare de tene tsende jumne ne tsep shimaya tene geni nyongger tene geni tene jima dari nyong gewa chuma pena tsame pi le pasa pa masa pala soba shin denra yore tene yang lengajik de tene 다 지마 다리 체럽 몽보고 지니 명게 다 된제양 다리 랭가레 요제 베나 다 디솔로 야차 몽보 손에더니 레데 넘버 용게 된자양 요래 되네요 랭가식디 다 님보 라만자 그 차송디더니 아마 뇽 이바 있네요 지마 다리 뇽을 망이바 단 뇽이 이바 메바 된제양 랭가레 요래 그때인디 마수 가성되는 거 뭐만 보스 그 달레 김지스 기도 연치민치미 그 체인들라 되네 뭐바 뭐보요래 배나 가리가 좀바 동야도는 따페 체인들라 여러 식보조야던 되네 조파 검나야는 체인들라 지금 랑 지약 보용아 되네 딘자다는 대진도는 지 잔라 로바시니 나지 랑가 켐탑데 조지 토모용아 딘자 삼삼레다 이나요 다 레지기도 페나 샹바가 때문에 사원 시카 사원 살았다니나데 동카마 도제면 디주 동동스 그런 만도요 말에 되니 되니 땅아 수추가나 제니나 가마카르키 따티 릴라토 시마카르키 따티 릴라토제 가마칸자인 따따가 다리 리텔라테나 코레 되니 시마칸자인 다가 따따가 정가 레소코 kindel라테나 코레 소요레 된자인디 저 저 멍멍치와 배나 사식수소네나 처마가 지금 레짐지기도 지금 테마터데 하면 영원 저차요래 삼거요래다 따때 지금 직된 거 좀 저릭다 리모 사원 말한데 나한테 레라보 차요 말아 되네 할란 사찬에 때 장바 요 말에서 오늘 장바 요래서 오늘 간래야 고만도 가슴 가리지는데 배 장바 몸보요래데 가리는 나나 장바 요 말에서 정말 탕래데 간래 고만도 다 가서 장바 같으니 사원 거 배전에나 레텔라 배 고지요래
So we talk about karma here, and then it's important to know that there's different types of karma, also in the way they ripen. So you have karma that you do in this life, and that it actually comes to fruition in this life. But you also have karma, the second type of karma, that only comes to fruition in the life after this life. And then the third type of karma is basically the karma that ripens in the life after the next life, or the lives after the next life, and you don't know when this is. It may be hundreds of years or hundreds of lifespans. And then it is also not necessarily that you will be able to actually experience the result of the karma you do. You know, there you might do something in the meantime that destroys that. When you speak of karma that you experience in this life, then that you can experience in this life, then we often think of generosity, and that is something that you will get back, or being patient. That's an attractive quality. So this is something that you can experience in this life. But it is something that and also like when we help other people, that we get good company and help back. But it is something that generally is not experienced straight away. When you think of it in terms of planting a seed, then when you plant a seed, still you have to wait for harvest time. And from a Dharma perspective, what we say is, if you want to know what kind of karma you've done in the past, look at your present circumstances. If you want to know what you will become in the future, look at what you do now, your current actions. So this is something, and it's you see a lot of people in the East have this idea of karma, that actually they want the direct experience, the results of karma, that you do something and you want to see the results of it. But it doesn't work like this. So you plant something as a farmer, and you then have to wait for it to grow, and only then you can harvest it. And actually I don't know whether you get this sort of simile, because in the Netherlands I've seen a lot of meadows and plains, but actually no farms so far. So I wonder whether there are farmers at all. But it is, you can think of it as planting a seed.
Can you repeat the last sentence? Planting the seed.
You can think of it as planting a seed.
Sorry?
Planting a seed. Yeah.
You can?
Yes.
Doing an
Yes, you
action.
can. Yes. Yes.
Doing an action is planting.
The last question?
Yes, please. There's the book Always Present by Khenpo Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche, the founder of Falun Gong. And in that book, there's a motto. Khenpo Sodaji has translated that book. He has written it and made it available in English. And there's a motto, and it says the following, I have here: do not lose your own path, do not disturb others' minds. So this motto, I know it's from Khenpo Jigme Phuntsok, and I'm interested to know how this came about, why this is a motto, what is its meaning, and why is it important?
네, 당아초 근데 가면 지금 분석 걸 롬마 참아 그때 빼 가르침버서 저거요래. 가르지나 콩그 다 롬마 용로 송시 참아 거더니 다 치타마 친직마 거 다리 그 측대 차요래. 가르스는 콩르 다 근데 공바 마존에 파치르니마 얼가지 열면서 그 혼도 근데 이 공바 조디 된데나 야낙 천도가 만강나는 공바 조래 옛날에 때니 야르 가르로 때니 카버 틀리파 티노나 때니 로마초라 때니 송시 타마즈 조요래 때니 송시 타마근 주르돔데라 콩그 다 장츠 마셔 랑그 측티 셔만조 때니 장그 셈데 마측 때 송요래 다 랑기 랑 베나 랑 추바진데 추바가 측즈요래 추바 측의 마셔 때니 랑 베나 때니 샤와강 좀 케즈이나 랑텔라 랑 람릭즈요라 랑기 람 베나 가 포파진나 포파가 랑 측의 마셔 때니 가 게긴즈긴나 게긴텔라 랑 측즈요 때 랑측의 마셔 베나 가 수상로 떠나 때페 또 몽보즈는 레초고요레 상고도 근데 먹강 샤와 강다강잖아 런거 측면절기도 배 가르침버려 상고 뜻지래 근데 측니바데 때네 다 장기 셈마트 수샤와 강점네 나더니 여러 공마라 여러 깊거 조시와도 때네 람님 솔라야나 파라뜬 시와도 때네 공마 솔라야나야 지금 샹경 시와 된라이 소니 나더니 잠바스야나 셈트고 요마라 당마송 가서들은 잠볼은 그때니 다 멘트 조야 다는데니 최산에 들이 яр급 пар네야나 다 뉴트람 보조이 더 단축 조어래. 되니 총산에 다리가 잠 판선 пар다는 되니 다리 멘트 보조요래. 되니 자메존에 더 멘트 보조요라. 다 대야나 장가 생축래. 되니 가수도 장세 마트지도 총산에 런기 첨 상다나 길금 пар다나. 되니 최산에 잠볼은 거 무세요 바나. 양 다른 야를 치네는 전 배나 던조 그런데 소이나요. 샤평 시고도와 다 된자인디 딱 공그 송시 소마가는 게 타마데레. 되니 가소이나 되니 배나가 라롱 가네 있네나 조 공그 측송조 때 라츠 마쇼 잔세 마트지기데 때 가론츠 배나 제선데 라틴 롭칭가나네나 때 거양오데 빠치 롭자가 때 플랍샤 조원은 조서라 그양 그 종저와 그 그양 취교도 롭자가나 기 조원 조거를 때 가랑츠 그나 가르네나 그 감모지미 버서 공바 조선데 때네 당아서 보바즈 인게다 추바즈 인게가 랑스기 쇼르무니스 때니 가랑츠야 지 잠바 촐라 다리 셈마치고나 판바 줍견데 예인세이다 수지 지산전 산전다는 때니 수부터 뜻죄게요래 근데 다 공그데 손시 총마가 타마데레 된디 지 가르침본도 때라요 고지용 몽보스 때네 추쇼고용 고지 몽보스 요래 때네 직된 쇼고네 랑커 그 게게인 난다 로마인 난다 세나라라라 미 츠다 마슈레 잠발라 엠보 뜬시기나 뭐야 보지 용건데 게레 삼교데 데 삼츠요.
So this phrase or this motto is very important for us as followers, as students of Jigme Phuntsho Rinpoche, and it's for us all important. The reason why it is so significant is that this basically came out of the last thing that Khenpo Jigme Phuntsho communicated with his disciples, his followers, before he passed away. He passed away in a military hospital in Chengdu in China, but 5-6 days before his passing, he had a telephone call with people at Larungar, and this is basically the summary of what he said. This is one of the last things that he said. Don't lose your, well, it's translated as lose your own path. It can mean actually many different things, and don't disturb the minds of others. So your own path, it could mean your practice, your Dharma practice, but it can also mean, like, if you are Tibetan, then don't lose your Tibetanness. So, and you could even take that as, if you are a teacher, don't lose your identity as a teacher, be a teacher, basically. So it has some reflection on the sort of notions of identity. And then for, don't disturb the minds of others, then you can take this again on many different levels. Most basically that you don't disturb others, but also knowing that that the way, thinking about the way you treat other people, that you treat other people above you with respect, that you treat people on the same level with kindness, and people who are in a less profitable situation than you, with compassion, and that you, and then again levels, you can think of nation states. I mean, the wars are because other people's mind, people are disturbed. Are caused by all these disturbances on smaller levels, family level. Then one is not to disturb the minds of others, come between couples, and so on. And then even, you can think about it for yourself in your direct relationships, but also how, people in the world should behave, but even the way we treat animals, for example, that we treat them right, that we don't disturb them. So the significance of this thing is that it's the last thing that Jigme Phuntsho Rinpoche said, and that is why it has become so important in Lalungar itself. And just as a lot of institutions and schools, universities, they have this sort of, they have a university motto or school motto, something that students there can take and think about, and something that is significant. So this has become this do not lose your own path and do not disturb other people's minds. This has become our motto, the motto of Lalungar, basically keeping one's own identity as whatever you are, and trying, so not harming others, trying to help others where you can. And the nice thing about this sort of last speech by Khenpo Jigme Phuntsho is that you can take it in a sort of from a religious point of view, from a worldly point of view, and just in any type of way.
I was wondering, because you mentioned in the foreword that there was only a few teachings remained, and that it's a collection of teaching. I was just wondering how you went about it and how you collected these things and how you made the choices for the chapters and that eventually became this book.
근데 shirtang kong 근데 송추도 mambo 요래. 요래다 옛날 아마 근데 뭐는 뭐지 그 샤르담 때 송디데 드니 콩그 드니 송쉿 드니 다 우kur 제들 mambo 요래. 때 세들는 게 당에 용시즈 드니 콩그 로마초라 다 타कर 그 드니 가교인 난자가 샤르담인 난자가 대진도 랍샤인 난자 딘다서 요래. shirtang kong ka song de mambo yo re da yin yan ti na ne da nyong shi zi de ne parchik chiklo ma so ya na thakar ke jil la phamba yo ba ga ne de ngari yo re ne darong mambo yo re da yin yan ta ti na ne kong ke chi ga jun she ya de mambo yo re la sha de mambo yo re ne da ngi na chi parchik ga jun she san ngari yo ne na de lo ma so phamba yo ji re sam go tang sang marang su me se na rang kyun de ngoi ho zangyo mare tene khong kambochang ina kama tene loma ga thakar kne 지금 ta manjik sa da tene yabo mayin ba tinda choin na tene bena ngaso poyer na tene ta atisha tene ta khongge na loma chon pe jardam na thakar ka songi suryo re tene 가리스니 나타 갑견시 노도 라마간 추긴 세게 담 상토가 그리기도 담가끔 추긴 세게 요래 다 된다서 따와는 지 송가리도 된다요나 여보라고 삼는데는 이 뎁당모도 된다 쇼주시는 때네 뎁 잠만가리 요래단다 다로야 디속도 그 코마소.
So these maybe shall I hold up the book we know what we're talking about. So what is in this book? They're basically short. The idea is that these are all sort of short instructions, advice, things like that, and also criticism. And the idea is for the disciples, the students of Jigme Phuntsho Rinpoche, that it is something that you can sort of directly hits home, and I call it their criticisms, and he was actually always keen to point out the things that were not being done all right, things that were going wrong. He was keen to point out, criticize others, and as we say, and this is something that we, for example, see with other masters, Buddhist masters coming to Tibet. For example, Atisha, when he, what we have from his teachings is that he was actually, the way he taught, he was directly addressed the disciples, his followers, and also interacted with what they were not doing right. So basically these are short, I selected, of course there's many more of these short instructions, criticisms, because we say the criticisms is the best teacher. Sometimes you can, especially when it comes from your own master or your own lama, then it's something that you will immediately take to heart. This is the reason why, and also these are short. It's something we can all easily sort of digest. But there's many more, and I've just chosen. Still, I had to make a choice, a selection of these.
Maybe it's time to.
So yes, you can.
So, first of all, I'd like to, on behalf of us all, thank Khenpo for his willingness to meet with us. So thank you very, very much. I would like to express once again all of our thanks, and we should express our thanks to Dr. Janse for her willingness to jump in and translate. Thank you.